Billionaire's disabled son was stuck in the mud until a poor black boy did something unthinkable. That will blow your mind. No one saw the wheelchair sink, not at first. The rain was coming down in sheets, pounding the boardwalk so hard it sounded like gunfire. Tourists ran for cover. Shop signs rattled in the wind. But at the far end of the marsh path, a boy was stuck, alone. Arlo Bennett gripped his wheels tighter. One was half buried in mud, the other spinning uselessly in the water. "Ms. Dalton," he shouted. His voice broke. "Help!" His caregiver stood 50 yards away under a bus stop roof, dry and distracted, staring at her phone like nothing else existed. Arlo's chest tightened. The rain was cold now, running down his face and into his eyes. He tried again to move, but the chair tilted dangerously. Panic rose in his throat. He couldn't tip over. Not here, not now. "Somebody please," he yelled into the storm. Across the street, 15-year-old Kai Morales was finishing his shift at the marina. He wiped rain off his face and started to head home, until he saw it. A flash of silver. A wheelchair wheel. For a moment, Kai thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Then lightning lit up the sky, and he saw the boy trapped in the mud. "Hang on," he yelled, dropping his backpack and running through the rain. He jumped the puddle at the curb, his shoes splashing through dirty water. "Don't move," he called out. "I'm coming." Arlo looked up, eyes wide. No one had ever come running for him before. Kai grabbed the back of the wheelchair and pushed. The wheels wouldn't move. He tried again. His shoes slipped, his hands sliding off the metal handles. The mud clung to everything. "Okay," he said, catching his breath. "We'll do this my way." He crouched beside the chair. "Wrap your arms around my neck, all right?" Arlo froze. "You're serious?" Kai grinned. "You got a better plan?" Even through the fear, Arlo laughed. "Just a little." Kai lifted him, step by heavy step, through the sucking mud. The storm hit harder, but he didn't stop until they reached a bench under a tree. He set Arlo down gently and pulled off his hoodie, wrapping it around him. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," Arlo whispered. "Thank you." Kai smiled faintly. "No problem. Before we go on, if you're feeling this story, take a second to subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories like this one. And trust me, this one's just getting started." Kai glanced back at the marsh. The empty wheelchair was half buried in the rainwater, rocking slowly in the wind, the only proof of what almost happened. That night, two strangers met in a storm. One needed saving. The other needed a reason. Neither of them knew they had just changed each other's lives forever. The rain had stopped, but the world still looked bruised. Puddles shimmered under the streetlights. The air smelled like wet asphalt and cold metal. Kai sat on the bench beside Arlo, both of them soaked, silent, breathing hard. Then headlights cut through the mist. A black SUV sliding to a stop by the curb. The door flew open. "Arlo!" A woman ran toward them, heels sinking in the mud. Her hair was plastered to her face, her voice tight with panic. "Mom," Arlo said, tears spilling over. "I'm okay. He helped me." Kai stood awkwardly, trying to wipe mud from his hands. He looked like a ghost against the glare of the headlights, soaked, trembling, but steady. "You pulled him out?" she asked, breathless. Kai nodded once. "Yeah." He was stuck. For a second, Mrs. Bennett couldn't speak. She looked at her son, then at the boy who'd saved him. "Everyone else just walked by," she whispered. "They all saw and kept going." Kai shrugged, voice quiet. "Guess they didn't see the right way." Arlo's mom blinked fast, holding back tears. "What's your name?" "Kai Morales." "I'm Emily Bennett. Please, let me drive you home. It's the least I can do." Kai hesitated. He wanted to say no. His grandmother hated uninvited guests, and their apartment wasn't the kind of place rich people visited. But he was cold, and he was tired. "Okay," he said softly. Inside the SUV, Arlo held onto Kai's sleeve like he was afraid he'd vanish. The heater hummed, and the world finally started to feel warm again. "Where do you live, Kai?" Mrs. Bennett asked. He pointed out the window as they turned down a narrow street of faded brick buildings. "End of the block. Apartment 3B. When they stopped, Mrs. Bennett frowned. The building looked old. The kind of place where the light bulbs flickered and the mailboxes rusted. Kai noticed her expression and stood tall. "It's home," he said simply. She nodded quickly. Of course. Wait, Arlo said. Can we come up? I want to thank you proper. Kai smiled, nervous but kind. Sure, if you don't mind stairs. Arlo laughed. Good thing we brought a strong guy. Upstairs, the door opened to a tiny apartment. Clean, but bare. A thin woman lay resting on a couch, her chest rising slow. Grandma, Kai whispered. We've got guests. Her eyes fluttered open, soft and kind. What in the world happened? He helped me, Arlo said quickly. He saved me. The woman smiled weakly. Then I guess we owe you a thank you, son. Mrs. Bennett's eyes scanned the room, the stack of unpaid bills, the nearly empty medicine bottles. Her heart squeezed. Kai, she said gently, I think we can help each other. He frowned. Ma'am, you saved my son's life today, she said. Let me save your grandmother's. Kai froze. He didn't know what that meant yet, but that night, everything was about to change. The next morning smelled like coffee and rain. Kai stood by the window, watching the street shimmer with puddles. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept replaying the night before. The mud, the storm, Arlo's face. The way his mother had said those words, let me save your grandmother's life. Behind him, his grandma coughed softly. You okay, baby? Yeah, Kai said, though his chest felt tight. Just thinking. About that boy, she asked, smiling a little. Or his fancy mama? He laughed under his breath. Maybe both. A knock came at the door. Kai frowned. Hardly anyone ever knocked there. When he opened it, Emily Bennett stood in the hallway. No makeup this time. Hair pulled back, holding a paper bag that smelled like pancakes. I didn't know what you liked, she said, smiling awkwardly. So I brought everything. Kai blinked. You came back. Of course, she said. You didn't think I'd forget you, did you? She stepped inside, looking around the small apartment again, the peeling wallpaper, the squeaky fan, the pile of bills on the table. Kai's grandmother tried to sit up. Ma'am, you didn't have to. I wanted to, Emily said softly, setting the food down. Please, eat with me. I have something to say. They sat together at the tiny table. The smell of warm food filled the room, but Kai barely touched his plate. Emily looked between them, her eyes gentle. I spent all night thinking about how to thank you, she said. But money doesn't feel right. It never does. Kai's grandmother smiled faintly. Good instincts. Money can make things messy. I agree, Emily said. So I want to offer something else. Kai, how old are you? 15. She nodded. You're smart. You're strong. You don't look away when someone's in trouble. My son needs someone like you. Someone who treats him normal. Someone who sees him. Kai frowned. You want me to what? I want to hire you as Arlo's companion, she said. Not as charity. As a job. You'll help him at school, hang out with him, keep him company. And in return, I'll make sure your grandmother gets the medical care she needs. Kai's hands tightened around his cup. I can't take that. Yes, you can, Emily said calmly. It's not charity. It's a trade. You help my son, I help your family. Fair. Kai looked at his grandma. Her breathing was shallow again, her hands trembling. Baby, she said softly, sometimes help ain't pity. Sometimes it's a door opening. You just gotta be brave enough to walk through it. Kai swallowed hard. So, I'd just be his friend. More than that, Emily said. You'd show him the world again. He looked down, thinking, then finally nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Emily smiled, relief flooding her face. Good. Then it's settled. That morning, a quiet deal was made in a small apartment. One that would turn two boys from strangers into something closer than brothers. But what none of them knew was that their invention, that simple idea drawn on a scrap of paper, would soon catch the attention of people far beyond their little town. And when it did, everything would change again. 2 years passed like a heartbeat. The storm was just a memory now. But everything that came after it had changed their lives forever. Kai and Arlo's invention, the Freedom Wheel, was no longer just a garage project. It had turned into a real design, one that tech investors wanted to see, one that made the front page of the local paper. The boys who built hope, the headlines said. But for Kai, it was never about headlines. It was about Arlo, about his grandma, about keeping promises. The morning of Arlo's graduation, the air smelled like summer and fresh-cut grass. The school courtyard buzzed with noise, parents cheering, students in blue gowns tossing their caps. Kai stood by the fence, smiling, camera in hand. He wasn't graduating yet, but he felt proud, like he was. Arlo rolled up beside him, adjusting his gown. You know, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. Kai shook his head. Nah, man. You got here 'cause you didn't give up. Arlo grinned. Guess we both didn't. The ceremony started. Names were called. When they reached Arlo, Bennett, the crowd erupted. But the loudest cheer came from the back, where Kai's grandma sat, waving her cane in the air. Afterward, everyone gathered by the old tree, their tree, the same one from that stormy night. Emily Bennett handed Kai an envelope. What's this? He asked. Your acceptance letter, she said, smiling. Full scholarship. Engineering program. You've earned it. Kai froze. You did this. Arlo shook his head. No, man. You did this. Kai looked at the letter again. The words blurred through his tears. And then, in front of everyone, Arlo, Emily, and his grandma, he said quietly, I don't have much, but I've got family. Right here. Emily's eyes softened. Then let's make it official. She turned to his grandma. If you'd allow it, I'd like to make Kai part of our family. The old woman smiled through her tears. He already is. From that day on, the Bennetts weren't just a family by name. They were something stronger. Together, they built a foundation. The Freedom Project, designing mobility tech for kids who couldn't afford it. Their story spread across the internet, across schools, across hearts. And every time someone asked where it all began, Arlo would say, in the middle of a storm, when a stranger didn't look away. Kai would smile and add, sometimes the people who save you end up being saved too. The camera would fade. Out on their hands, one holding the other, as the sun set over Seabrook. Light glinting off the wheels of the chair that started it all.